Konbanwa, and welcome to webinar 11, which is Now What? And this webinar came about because last week one of our JapanEasyReads members asked a great question, and I thought I would address it tonight. She is reading with her class, Bergerman, and she said, we've done lots of the reading, the cold character reading. If you're not sure what that is, please check out, I think it's webinar 9. And she was saying, look, we've read part of it, but, what are the follow-ups, or what should we do? Should we be doing some speaking afterwards or writing? So I thought that I'd go through some of my favourite no or low prep activities. And these are really quick. They're great as a post-reading activity to provide more input, or even to break up an activity that has a high cognitive load. So if it's requiring a lot of oral input, this could be an activity just to break it and to make it a bit like a brain break. Excuse me. So let's have a look. These are, I've called them sneaky input activities. So they're sneaky input because the students are thinking it's either a game or they're producing output. But in actual fact, the underlying thing that is happening is that the students are receiving more comprehensible input, and that, as we know, the more of that we can provide the students, the faster we can fast track language acquisition. So number 1 of sneaky input is listen and draw. And really, there's no great mystery to this activity. Basically, the students listen and then draw. So they listen to the story or a recap of the story or something that has been previously discussed, and then they draw what they hear. And it's a great low prep way, because way to provide comprehensible input. But in addition, it generates images that are of high engagement because the students have created this artwork. And so their artwork can then be used for other input activities, such as a gallery walk or a picture talk or story sequencing activity. So this is best done, I've found, on either white A4 paper or with whiteboards, so the students can display their images to the class, and then the teacher can then select one or a couple even, and do a little bit of a recap. And in doing so, it provides a little bit more sneaky Japanese input. So basically give the instructions. So, kite, kaite, kudasai. And then I'll use Bergerman as an example. You may like to gesture if your students need the input, but it could be superhero ga 3 nin imasu. And then the students will draw what they hear. And I think it's a great idea to set the timer, and the students must finish at the end of the timer. So it's not an art activity as such, it's an input activity. So, which provides the teacher with a bit of an assessment of the comprehension level of the students. So stick figures are okay. Take 1 or 2 of the pictures and then recap. So the students got has their picture here, and the teacher then to the class can then recap or compare and contrast if they're choosing two students' work. 3人いますね。1人、2人、3人。誰ですか? And so you can then ask who they are. 納豆マンですか? Pizza man ですか? And you could also ask for more information. Are they men or are they women? So using comprehensible language that the students know, or you can provide extra support with gestures if they're unsure. So as I did with the Sun Nin, if you haven't covered those counters, that's an easy way to incorporate it really naturally and in context. Also, men or women, so 女の人ですか? それとも男の人ですか? So I use some gestures to help make it comprehensible. So that is listen and draw. And as I said, it's a fun way to provide extra input and also to get the students doing something. So not just reading in a stagnant sort of way. So the next one of sneaky input number 2 is musical chairs. And this one is great for getting the students up and about, and also acts as a bit of a brain break. But most importantly, it gives that sneaky extra oral input for the students. And in the case of a reading, post-reading activity, it also is another opportunity for the class to hear the story again. So the setup is that similar to musical chairs, you'd set up a chair for each student -1. So if it's a class of 30, you'd set up 29 chairs there. It can be in a circle, or it can be in a sort of a line like this, a narrow one, depending on your classroom setup. So the teacher will read out the story while the students walk around the chairs. So there's a predetermined word that is like the buzzword that the students will be listening for. And if they hear that word, they must sit down, find a chair and sit down. So it could be demo. That's the buzzword that they're listening for. So, you'll get, hopefully, a large chunk of the story read through, and all the while the students are listening intently for that buzzword. And as soon as they hear that buzzword, they find the seat, and the person without the seat sits out. You can also incorporate an opportunity for all the out people to go back in. It could be a junk and pon with the teacher, or some other little challenge that you might set so that there's not large groups of students sitting out all at one time. So moving on to number 3, sneaky input number 3 is the silly voices reading. I did write a blog post about this one, and it is really fun. So, excuse me. So the class is divided into 2 groups. I found that's the easiest way to manage the class, and taking it in turns, the group, so A group and B group, boys or girls, or you can divide it any way you like. So group A and group B, it's a reading challenge, but it's done the way that this is successful. The reasons why it's successful is because it's choral reading, so there's support for the less confident students, less confident readers. And also it's silly voices. So that takes away the seriousness of the reading and the strong focus, I suppose, on pronunciation, which can impact the confidence of the students. So choosing a different voice, and some of the ones that I have found to be lots of fun, big voice, small voice, scary voice, romantic voice, and robot voice. Could also do, Great Western voice, or Tinkerbell voice. So things that you think that your students would really connect with. And so then you choose the text, and it works really the best if it's something that the class is familiar with. So a story that you've co-created together, or a story that you're reading together, a little mini novel together, or a graded reader. And you read through it as a whole class, checking for comprehension first. So this is the Silly Voices reading is, say, your second or third read together. So it wouldn't be the first read that you would do. This is follow-up reading. So read through, check for comprehension again, divide the class into the two teams. Each team practices chorally reading the text together. So making sure that everybody knows and understands the text that is to be read. And I'd keep it quite short too. It might be, for a little graded reader, it might be 2 pages. For a mini novel, it might be 1 page. So Team A challenges Team B to read using one of the voices. So then they perform, and then Team B will challenge Team A to read using one of the voices. And then the teacher awards points for the best team effort. And you keep repeating using different voices. They can only use the same, use one specific voice once, so they have to try different voices. That's a lot of fun. And so sneaky input number 4 is Readers Theatre. On the internet, you can find Karen Rowan has lots of Readers Theatre support, how to do Readers Theatre. She also has some videos of her Spanish classes, and it gives you a really good idea of how she manages and coaches the class to perform. And so she is almost like a conductor who is managing this little performance. So basically, to recap really quickly on this, you recap the key words with their gestures. So for the JapanEasyReads books, we focus on the Super 7 words and question words. So those are des, janai des, ski des, ski janai des, ni ikimasu, o shimasu, ga hoshi desu, ga hoshikunai desu, and nani nani o, for example, tabe tai desu. So they want to do something. So we would recap those in the gesture form, as well as the conjunctions, which are demo, dakara, mo, ka, wa, soi shite. And so we would practice those ones, check those ones, make sure that we understand those. And then recap shimashou. So choose a student actor or actors to dramatize the role. So for this one, you would have Burger Man, you'd have Super Sushi, Ramen Man, Pizza Man, and you would check any of the vocab that that the students might need. So ga suki desu, tsuyoi desu, etc. So then we would bring the students to the front, the actors to the front of the room. And the tips for a successful reader's theatre would be is, if it's available to you, project the story up on the whiteboard for extra support. And that's support for the teacher to help with the prompts, and also for the students just to have a bit of a visual. Particularly helpful in the early stages when you're getting your students used to doing this activity. The teacher coaches the class to provide the sound effects on cue. So, for example, so that there's audience participation. So they might be saying, so desu ka? Or using gesture responses when they hear the word, like tsuyoi. They could do that, so that there's a little bit more involvement and engagement with the whole group, not just the actors, the student actors. So begin by reading aloud in Japanese while coaching the actors to dramatise the action. Stop to ensure 100% comprehension by both the students in the class and the actors. For example, you might be reading through the story and indicating that Pizza Man says, yoroshiku onegai shimasu. So quickly, you might just say to the class, now what does that mean again? Oh, yes, pleased to meet you. Right, hey, yoroshiku onegai shimasu. And then you'd prompt the actors to say their line. And obviously to encourage the actors to act enthusiastically and dramatically, coach and direct the actors who perform unenthusiastically until they do it with energy. So you're insisting that the actors follow the directions as you read them precisely, so that each sentence is completely comprehensible to the students. So if the student actors don't understand the input, they won't be able to act in a way that makes the input comprehensible to the rest of the class. So that's why it's really important. Select your actors carefully so that you'll know the ones that are going to work cohesively with you and provide a role model for the rest of the class for future theatre, readers' theatre activities. That is, once the guidelines are set up for readers' theatre, though, it is a quick and easy activity to do, to add some movement and change the pace of the lesson. Sneaky input number 5 is the pencil grab. It's so easy to use. It's great for recapping and providing extra input. I've talked about this one a lot, and it's my go-to because it's absolute simplicity and the way that it checks for comprehension, provides more input. It has everyone engaged. So if this is new to you, instruct your students to find a partner, to work with a partner. Each pair has a marker or a pencil that they put in between the two of them, and that is what they're going to grab. I call this in Japanese totte, and so the students are listening, each pair is listening for a statement that you're going to make. So if we're focusing on Burger Man, it would be a statement, true or false, about something that happens in the story. So, for example, you may say, Pizza Man wa tsuyoi desu. Now, if it's correct, the pair would race to pick up their marker or the pencil. If it's incorrect, which it is, no one picks up. So it stays there. And if it's grabbed by someone by accident or by mistake, their partner then gets a point. If they both grab it, they jankenpon and see who wins that way. So super easy, high interest and energy, and provides, as I said, that extra check of comprehensive input, extra bit of comprehensible input, and really low prep. So that's a real win-win for everybody. Okay, our last one, our last sneaky input, number 6. Who said it? So to gamify this activity, you can divide the class into groups or into teams. And the goal of this activity is to correctly identify who said the statement that you're going to say. So the students listen to each statement said by the teacher. For example, natto wa oishikunai desu. Now, you may need to give some extra support. Natto wa oishikunai desu. Now, to make this really accessible to all level of students, it's really important to give wait time, and I make sure that the students know that I will say the statement twice and no response until the countdown of wait time is over. So it could look like this. Natto wa oishikunai desu. Natto wa oishikunai desu. And then the teams, the team who is, so each team will have a person who is responding for the group, and the team member jankenpon to see who can respond. So it's a bit of luck is involved too. That layer of luck is another way to keep it very accessible to everybody. So the winner of the jankenpon states who said the phrase. So if we've got team A and team B, everybody hears the statement twice, and then the countdown, and then at the end of the countdown, the 2 people who are responding for their teams will jankenpon, and then state the answer. For example, Burger Man. And then the teacher rephrases or confirms that, Hi, Burger Man wa nani 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 to imashita. Omedetou. Now, another advantage of doing it in groups and having the wait time there, that's a chance for each of the groups to discuss and to make sure that everybody knows and they've agreed on what who said that. So again, it's another level of support for students that might be slower processing or lacking confidence. The teacher can then award point for the winning team. So another fun one. And just following up with that, here is another sneaky input, a little bit more output required for this one, but it follows on really well from the Who Said It activity. And that is, if after you've done the Who Said It activity, you might like a written task or just something, you've got an extra little bit of time at the end, you could provide the students with one of these between pairs so that they're working collaboratively and can decide on a little bit of dialogue. And it could be in Romaji if that's where they're at that moment, or it could be in hiragana, depending on where your students are and your your level where your kids are at. So in pairs, they can then decide on a little bit of dialogue between perhaps Burger Man and Natto Man. So I just put those in there for a little bit of suggestions of other ways that you can extend that if you require them to do some follow-up writing as well. With the Instagram one, it could be them drawing a picture about something that was in the story and then, somebody commenting on that. So in the case of Burger Man, it might be, so in Burger Man, we've got the twist there that Pizza Man likes natto, and so natto is a his superpower, and he actually henshin shimasu. So then he turns into Natto Man. So it could be a picture of Natto Man there and Burger Man saying how he's tsuyokunai desu. Or it could be Natto Man, a picture of Natto Man and a comment from one of the other superheroes. Natto Man wa tsuyoi desu, or something like that. So it's a good chance for again, to work collaboratively, to brainstorm some creative ways to use the language that they can recycle from the book. So that's our webinar for tonight. I hope that that's given some ideas of ways that you can provide more input after a reading activity or after an oral input activity. Or maybe you can use these activities in other ways in your classes. So I hope that it's useful. If you've got any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me through JapanEasyReads community or email me here. So until next week for webinar 12, if you've got any suggestions, please let me know of things that you are interested in finding out a little bit more about as part of the Express PD that we do on a Tuesday. So again, good luck with your classes and happy inputting.